Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Crime Watch, a program that helps to keep you safe. Joining me today, as in programs past, not every program, but quite a few, Officer Ryan Donnelly from the Quincy Police Department. This topic I addressed with your predecessor years ago. Thought we should bring it back. Your predecessor, Officer Dan Minton. Lieutenant Dan Minton. And as you had also pointed out, a former city councilor in the city as well. But we had talked about home security, and I thought let's revisit that topic and add maybe a new perspective. Obviously, technology has changed over the years, but the basics haven't.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same thing. I mean, technology moves forward. We have a lot of new tech. We can talk about that today too. But the simplicity is keeping the criminal away from your house and limiting their opportunity for them to get into your house or on your property.
Something you addressed prior to the cameras rolling was something called the crime triangle.
Yeah, so this is not a new concept, but it kind of makes policing seem a lot more simpler than it really is. But there's three sides to a triangle. You have a target, which in this case that we're talking about today is a home or a property, a desired from a criminal to commit a crime against your property or your home, and the opportunity for that person to commit that crime.
And I guess as we go through steps that folks should take, one of the things that kind of pops into my mind is folks will say, well, I live in a safe neighborhood. I can leave my doors open. I mean, that may be true for the immediate area, folks that normally go to that area, but there's the off chance that somebody not from that area might come into that area.
Correct. Yeah, you should always lock your doors, without question. I live in a town with 8,000 people, and I lock my doors every night.
Locking doors both on your property, well, your house, but also your car.
Correct.
Your windows as well. Again, opportunity, crimes of opportunity, that's an easy one for a criminal to use.
Yeah, so there was I wouldn't say a groundbreaking study, but there was an interesting study done in Canada years ago where they pulled a bunch of prisoners in jail. And it was regarding larcenies. And for some reason, what sticks out to me from that study is that they were talking about lawnmowers, like people stealing lawnmowers. And they interviewed a whole host of criminals and they said, listen, what made you steal from one particular house or another? And they said, simple. I would go up to the garage and see if the door was unlocked. And if it was unlocked, I'd take something. If the garage door was open, I would absolutely take something. But if it was shut and locked, I would just move on to the next house.
So we should mention that often these criminals don't necessarily use the item they stole. They'll sell it and get money for it.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the main motivation. I don't think there's many criminals mowing lawns.
Well, that's just it. So the actual,
or at least not on the highway.
Stole.
The guy's out on the highway picking up the trash and stuff.
But that also makes me think of, as you had mentioned, garage. If a garage is attached to the house, certainly there's access from the garage into the house. Correct. But a shed should be locked as well.
Yeah, any place that you store something that you don't want the things to be taken, lock it.
Let's talk about lighting and how important it is that you don't live in a dark space.
That is the number one deterrent for criminals. They don't like to be seen. Usually when a criminal commits a crime, they want to stay anonymous because once they're identified, they're probably going to get arrested by the police or charged at least. Good lighting is the number one deterrent. So having your front lights on at night, right? Having motion lighting around your house, particularly in darker areas or areas that are not visible from the street. Backyards. Sometimes criminals will be like, oh, someone turned the light on, when it's just a motion light. I have a couple motion lights around my house that will turn on. We have a lot of deer in our neighborhood, so it goes on a lot.
So they help in that sense, right? They make it look like when you're not at home that possibly someone is at home.
Correct. And there's now kits online where you can get a motion light with a camera attached to it. And there's many different companies that offer these cameras, the small like doorbell cameras. We have a couple other cameras on our property, and you can watch them from your phone. You can check on them throughout the day and say, oh, no one's in my backyard, or get notification if there's someone at your door, or in the yard near one of the motion cameras, motion lights with a camera on it. They're pretty cheap to install. I mean, I'm not the most handy person in the world, and I was able to do it. I think they're huge bang for the buck.
And I know this came up during our show on holiday safety, but what seems to be prevalent is the package removal from a house, stealing packages from homes. Obviously, if you have a camera, and often that's used as a potential tool to press charges, I would imagine, if the criminal is ever apprehended. But talk about that. Talk about the importance of maybe not leaving something on a porch for too long.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a package delivered at 9 a.m. and you're at work till 5, it's going to be there for a while. The cameras do help. A lot of times the criminals will wear masks and get into a rental car, and then we have to track down the license plate, who had the rental car last, and if that's actually the person who did it and not someone else that's related to him or a friend. One of the newest things I've seen lately is like one-way storage boxes, where you're able to put a package inside a box, and once, like a steel box, and once it's shut, only the owner can open it. And it's usually bolted to the front stairs or like the front deck of your house if you have like Trex decking or wood decking for your stairs. It can be secured to the house in a different way with like one of those locking wires, like the padlocks with the big steel wire around it, like a bike lock. Those are pretty interesting. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I've seen commercials for them online. I think that's a pretty good idea. But we definitely see a lull in package thefts this time of year. The frequency of packages during the holidays is what creates that opportunity, right? So that's one of the sides of the triangle. If you get seldom that you get packages the rest of the year, there's going to be less opportunity.
Sure.
So it's like a target-rich environment for the criminals during Christmas, and it's usually high dollar items because you don't want to go out and shop for an iPhone for your daughter or your son or your wife, or a big ticket item. You just have it delivered so you can hide it in the house once you get it, right? Until Christmas. So that's an inflated opportunity for the criminals.
And I suppose if you have trustworthy neighbors, if you have neighbors you're friendly with, and you're not going to be at home for a period of time, maybe ask them to pick up the package.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done that before. When we go on vacation, I ask one of my neighbors, hey, listen, can you keep an eye on the house for me? Let me know if anything's going on. One neighbor in particular, I get like daily updates. Yep, everything's good. Sounds good. Can you grab that package for me? We're going to be out for the night. Yeah, no problem. I'll see you tomorrow, sort of thing. It's good to have that sort of collective mindset with your neighbors. That's the natural surveillance. So you have people who have eyes watching your house. That's
so it was like the old neighborhood watch.
Kind of, yeah. It's just not people rolling around with sticks and going, rousing the kids out of the woods and stuff, like we used to see in the movies.
Right. What about what about signs? What about signage? And even decoy cameras. If you can't afford, let's say, an actual camera, a decoy, I would assume would be beneficial. I don't think a criminal is going to spend time to try to figure out whether that's wired or not wired.
So remember back in the day, you used to see like the ADT signs on everybody's front lawn?
Right.
You don't see that anymore, right? Because people have gone to these other companies with like the doorbell cameras and the cameras in the backyard and around the house. Sometimes even inside your house, people have cameras. So you can go to the dollar store and get a sign that says, "Hi, you're on camera," put it in your window. I don't think it's going to hurt. If anything, it's going to make a criminal think twice, like, "Oh, where is the camera? Like, I don't see it. Like, is it in the bushes? Is it down on the ground? Like, looking up at me, you know?" So,
Because nowadays with the technology, with the advent of smaller units, technological units, they can be in places that, they can be the size of pen cams or small spy cams, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to notice it.
correct. You can hide cameras in pretty much anything. But again, you're not going to eliminate, going back to the crime triangle, you're not going to eliminate the target that the criminal has in their mind, be it a house, a car, a bank, whatever it is. Everything can be a target. You're not going to limit their desire, right? So if they have the desire to commit a crime, to steal something, they're going to steal something. What you can influence is the opportunities. So the less opportunities, they're just going to move on to somebody else who doesn't take care of their property, maintain their bushes, have their house look tidy, make sure that they have a doorbell camera. They're going to just move on to someone else's houses that looks unkept, that they can steal something from there.
And I suppose talk about trash day. And most homes now, there's bins that people put their trash in, so that it's not readily seen what exactly the trash or the recycling is.
Yep.
But let's say you purchased a big item like a big screen TV. If the box is on the curb, empty, that might be a calling card for a criminal.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be, TVs are big now. Like, it's going to be hard to not find a guy walking down the street with a 75-inch TV.
True.
But at the same point, what it also points to is that you have the financial ability to buy that item. That's the bigger thing. So I would say cut the boxes up as small as you can, put it in the recycling bin, and then no one's going to be the wiser.
Talk about maybe deadbolts and what kind of locks people should buy to secure their doors.
Deadbolts are always good. Those are hard to defeat. A good foot can break in any door, right? So case-hardened deadbolts are probably the best. Believe it or not, the first home I ever bought didn't come with a deadbolt. And it was just like a regular doorknob with a key, like going into an office, right? And for a couple years, never had a deadbolt until I was like, oh, I should really get a deadbolt. Like, nothing happened in our neighborhood.
You would think. This is before you became a cop.
No, I was a police officer. I just didn't think of it at the time, right? I didn't have the current role that I have now, where it's, I get to do deep dives into all these subjects and figure out best practices. But put one in, it was very easy. You can get it at any hardware store. Now the newest thing is the deadbolts that can be activated by a code or from your phone.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, or any other hardware store, there is an option for those. So I'm a little bit skeptical about those, because someone can always take your phone or clone your phone sometimes and get access to that. Now, that's super extreme. That very rarely happens, but it can happen. Just like kind of the discussion we had before we got on air today about like how phones, the information goes both ways, right? So if you have an app where you can lock and unlock your deadbolt from your phone, say your child's like, "Oh, Dad, I forgot my key today." Okay, hold on a second. It's sending information to the deadbolt's then sending information back to you via the internet saying, "Hey, listen, the door's unlocked." Same thing with the codes. You can generally change the codes on an app. So it's big with people who own Airbnbs, right? Every time they turn over, instead of having a key, hey, the key's over here, someone can make a copy of that key and then go back later. They'll have the combination or code deadbolts and just send their newest client a code and say, "Hey, listen, here's the code." You can change that code. Again, that information is being sent from your phone to the lock, from the lock back to your phone. So I would just be a little bit skeptical of those. I'm not saying they're a bad option, but me personally, I'm just not 100% sold on them. I think if I have the key to get into a door, then that's the best for me, because there's two keys. I have one, my wife has one.
Right.
You know?
Talk about folks that hide maybe keys or other things under a rock?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was at a locksmith earlier today, and they had the rocks there that hold the keys, and I'm like, those rocks look nothing like the rocks I have around my house. So just if you're going to do that, right, you want to have a rock where you can put your key in. Just make sure it resembles the indigenous rocks in the area in which you live, because if you see a black marble rock and it's all like New England sandstone, they're gonna be like, oh, that doesn't look right.
Right.
So that's a big thing, is to make sure that it blends in. I'm not a huge proponent of doing that, like hiding a key. I think you're just kind of inviting trouble for someone that absolutely wants to get into your house. But they do make other hide a key things, like for example, little metal boxes with a punch code, right? So say it's a punch code that you and your family knows. There's no electronic part to it. It's just punch code, put the little metal clip down, put the key, put it back in when you're done. That would be the best option, I think. But again, if you secure it to something, it can be taken off, right? So you screw it into the back of a post. All you need is a screwdriver or a drill. So everything can be defeated with time.
What about leaving the lights on inside the home? So maybe you're away for the day, it turns into an early evening, maybe late evening, or you're going away for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, folks would put their lights on timers.
Yeah, so timers are good. I don't think it hurts. I have a friend of mine that will leave one light on and then go away. And I'm like, well, if I sat outside of your house for 2 days and noticed that the light didn't shut off and see any movement, I'm going to know you're not home.
Correct.
And if there's something in that house I want to get to, I'm going to try to get it. I think the timers are a good idea. The only downside is if the same light keeps going on at the same time. Anybody who's seen Home Alone, when the two burglars are sitting in the van, he's like, this house goes on now, this house now.
That's right.
This house now. So anytime a criminal invests the time on casing or watching an area, they're going to get to know the movements and how things work in the environment. So if you have different timers that go on in different times and different lights, that might be a more effective way.
What are some tips for folks that are going on vacation? One of the first things I'm going to say before you say anything at all is notify your neighbors that you'll be away. Mailboxes.
Yeah, let your neighbors know. If you have piling up mail, people are going to know. I get a lot of junk mail for some reason, so we always have a neighbor grab our mail if we're going to be away for a little while. You can also have the Postal Service suspend your mail delivery from a certain date to a certain date. You just got to go to your local post office, fill out the form. They'll hold your mail and then drop it off at the date that you desire. The other things...
The same thing would have been true for newspaper carriers, but there aren't so many newspaper carriers out there any longer.
I can't remember the last time I saw a paper boy.
Yeah, right.
Or a Patriot Ledger truck. You know,
a lot of it goes through the mail now.
Or the Herald or the Globe. Like I know the trucks still exist, but I used to see them all the time.
Right.
You just don't.
But if something like that back in the day piled up on someone's...
Yeah, they'll know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the other thing is make sure your windows are locked. If you have a sliding door that goes out to like a rear deck or something, if you take a dowel and just put it on the track, the door's not going to be able to open. Most of those newer doors have locks on the sliding portion up above that you can lock, in addition to the lock by the handle. Older doors don't, but you can put a dowel down, and then, if the dowel's on the inside of the door, it's very difficult to defeat. But someone could break your glass. There's always a way to get in somewhere.
That's another level. It's not.
Yeah.
Then the criminal would have to say, well, then I've got to go up a level.
Correct.
To get into this house.
Correct. So if you have someone that's highly motivated to get into a house for a particular reason, because they know you store gold bars in there for some reason, right? But if you have neighbors that are going to keep an eye on when you're home and not home or on vacation, that's good. But make sure it's a neighbor you trust. Like, don't have it be someone that brand new that just moved into the house next door to you. Hey, Joe, I'm leaving for a week. You seem like a really nice guy. It's like someone that you got to trust. You know what I mean?
You talked about, and that you just talked about it briefly, and I'm intrigued, something called 3Ds.
Yep. So deterrence, delay, and detection. So deterrence is obviously the stuff that we're talking about, right? So keeping your bushes trimmed so your windows are visible, so someone can't go behind a bush, shimmy up a window, and go in and out with no one noticing. That's a big one. Having a sign saying, "Hi, you're on candid camera." Maybe you have a camera, maybe you don't. Having the cameras, having good natural surveillance, like your neighbors can see your house from their house, right? Without necessarily coming out and peeking around a corner. Delaying it's kind of what we talked about with the dowel in the track of the sliding door. That's going to delay any entry. It's going to create noise when someone's trying to break that dowel to get in. And the dowels I'm talking about are like the dowels you get for your closet to hang clothes, right? So like something like that that's made out of wood, or you can even use like a metal pipe. And then the detection is the video recording. So you're using the video cameras, you have the video recordings. Now here's one thing that everybody forgets. When you get those camera systems, they usually give you a free period in which you can watch the video. And then they hit you up for a monthly subscription after 30 or 90 days. Make sure that you get that subscription, because a year from installation, something happens, someone breaks into your house, you're like, oh, I never paid anything. Now, there is ways that the company can get that video, but they're going to charge you for it, and it's going to be more expensive because they'll have to do some sort of thing on their end with going through their archives of the videos from your house.
When you had mentioned the blockage for sliders, this brings me to, I guess, a vacation destination when you leave your home. You'll also have to be concerned about break-ins at, let's say, a Airbnb. And the reason I say that is because I recently took a couple days and went to Pennsylvania, and the place I stayed had 2 sliders, and they both had 2x4s at the base to ensure that
I'm not lying to you when I come here, you know?
Oh. But be aware of your surroundings, I guess, is
the other
point, especially when you're not at home, when you're not in your usual space.
Yeah, so for example, another thing is like if you keep ladders behind your house, right? A criminal may see that and be like, that's a great way to get into that second floor window. That doesn't look like it's locked. I keep all my ladders in my basement in my house.
And the house across the way from where we were staying had a ladder outside. So and it was actually set up. It wasn't even laying down, but that's a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, so like things like that too. I mean, you gotta, for everything you try to do, a criminal's gonna try to counter it. So you gotta try to be one step ahead of them. That's the thing. Or make your house the least desirable house to break into by all the things that we're talking about today. Like when I go back to the example when I talked about the lawnmowers, right? If you just shut your garage, they said that was like a 50-50 shot that they were even going to try that house.
Right.
You know, so you're lowering your odds right there. If you locked it, it was going to, didn't work. I'm going to Joe's house.
And the same thing can be said about cars. If you lock your cars, it's in a parking lot. If it's locked, less chance. I mean, a criminal is only, let's say, in that area for a limited time. Not going to bother with a locked car if the one next to it is unlocked.
Correct. And especially with cars, if you leave objects in your car, that's going to be the easiest thing. Change is usually what we see taken most. But if there's something in your car like airbags, for some reason, the airbags in cars are like very valuable. So we'll see like someone break into a car, rummage through it and take the airbag. A lot of times people, you see the cars on the cinder blocks, because they want the catalytic converters under the cars. You can't do anything about that if your car's parked there. Like, it is what it is. Just try to park it under a light. That's the best thing or a camera. It's the best advice I can give you. Because criminals hate light. They don't like to be seen. But with cars particularly, if you lock them, we'll talk to people that we arrest and they'll be like, yeah, it was just an unlocked car. Kind of like, why wouldn't I go in it?
Right.
Sort of thing.
It was almost an invitation. In the last couple of minutes, anything you'd like to address that maybe we haven't addressed?
Just some simple stuff for inside your house, right? So, for example, make sure that you change the batteries in your smoke detectors and that they're working every year, right? Smoke and CO2 detectors. Keep a list of numbers, usually 911, poison control, things like that. You can call 911. They'll get you to poison control. It's less numbers to call, less numbers to dial. But poison control is 1-800 number. I remember seeing that on every single refrigerator when I was a kid, everywhere I went, especially my house, my grandparents' house, my aunt's house. Make sure, a lot of people don't know this, but have a good first aid kit. Something that is easily accessible. I have one on each floor of my house. I have one in the basement, first floor, second floor, and I have one in my shed. You can get those off of Amazon or anywhere else rather cheaply. The other part is bleeding control, like a tourniquet. You'd be surprised. They've done a lot of studies over the past few years of when someone suffers a traumatic injury, the percentage that you'll survive if you have bleeding control applied within the first few minutes of your injury, survival rate goes dramatically up. So say you fall off a ladder, you cut your arm, you're bleeding really, really bad, you can't control the bleed, put a tourniquet on. There's other like blood clot stuff that you can get. Quick clot is one thing that we use at the police department. There's other tourniquet bands you can get, but bleeding control is a very, very important thing. You talk to anybody who's a doctor or an EMS or a nurse, they'll say bleeding control is number one. And then make sure that you have a good form of communication, be it either a landline, a cell phone, just in case you do have to call 911 or get a hold of somebody. And then we all remember this when we were kids, right? You escape routes out of the house. You had to do a fire drill, right? At least my parents had us do fire. Okay, where are we getting out? Where's the safest route?
And where's the meeting place?
That's the big thing, to make sure everybody's accounted for. So for example, you have a second floor that has like an awning right under it. That window is probably going to be the best way to get out, right? So you're going down one story, not two. You go from that window to the awning and then down below. Emergency exits anywhere you go. That's important to understand and know. Try to find, anytime you go to a store, they have to have the emergency exits posted, right? So that's important.
So if you're staying in a hotel, motel, or
Yep, they have to have it on the back of the door. Yep. So as soon as you go into a hotel, you shut your hotel door. By law, it has to be on there, where the elevators are, where the emergency exits are. So you should also do that for your house. But those are just some tips inside that are more common, believe it or not, than someone breaking into your house or having a system to keep criminals out of your house. Anybody who has little kids knows that you need a first aid kit, and a box of bandages just isn't going to do it.
Just talk about cell phones and the importance of having them charged, because you never know. I guess my thought is your house could lose power and a landline wouldn't be usable.
Correct. So a couple of things we have in our house are those like portable power banks. We always kind of keep them charged. We keep a couple in the kitchen and a couple in the bathrooms, just so we know where they are, with a cord that you can just plug your phone into, just in case if you're like me, at the end of the day, my phone's at like 20%. So, you're waiting to get home to charge it or get in your car to charge it. You can also charge your phone in your car during an emergency, but if your car's in your garage and the electricity's off and you don't have the strength to open up your garage door, don't start your car in your garage, because then your CO2 detectors that you check every year are going to go off.
Correct. Very good program, a lot of good tips. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. And thank you at home for watching, and please remember to support the local access station in the community in which you reside. Take care.